become more limited, more precious. You don't have the same endless reserves you once did, and that makes every commitment heavier. Every compromise costs more. Every obligation takes a bigger piece of you. And this is where many men quietly realize something they never expected to feel. Freedom feels better than romance ever did. Silence feels safer than drama. Peace feels richer than passion. Men who have lived long lives understand that happiness isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't come with fireworks or constant reassurance. It's quiet mornings, predictable routines, familiar spaces, and the ability to live without explanation. Remarriage can disrupt that balance in ways that seem small at first but grow heavier with time. Suddenly you're no longer moving at your own pace. You're coordinating, negotiating, adjusting. Even love, when it asks too much, can feel like a burden. One retired therapist explained it this way: in your 20s, marriage helps you build a life. In your 40s, it helps you manage a life. But after 60, it often interferes with finally enjoying it. That doesn't mean companionship loses its value. It means the form it takes must change. At this stage, the healthiest relationships are the ones that allow two whole people to remain whole, not merge into something complicated and fragile. Many senior men discover they don't want to start over. They don't want to rebuild routines, renegotiate roles, or redefine themselves through someone else's expectations. They want to finish well. They want to enjoy what remains without pressure. They want simplicity. They want dignity. They want calm. And remarriage, with all its legal, emotional, financial, and caregiving obligations, often works against those goals. There's also the quiet fear no one talks about. The fear of outliving your strength, of becoming trapped in a situation that cannot be easily undone. Divorce after 70 is not just emotionally devastating, it's physically exhausting. Courtrooms, paperwork stress, lawyers, financial strain. It can break men who no longer have the energy to recover. Many who go through it say the same thing afterward. I should have stayed single. I confused loneliness with love. And here's the truth that takes a lifetime to accept. Loneliness is not the enemy. Misery is. Being alone can be peaceful. It can be restorative. It can be a space where you finally hear your own thoughts again. But being tied to the wrong situation, especially late in life, can slowly drain your spirit. You can feel lonelier lying next to someone who doesn't understand you than you ever did sitting alone with your coffee in the morning. Some of the happiest senior men experts interview aren't married. They have friendships. They have companions. They have routines they cherish. They have boundaries that protect their peace. They've learned that love doesn't need ownership and companionship doesn't need control. They share time, not assets. They share moments, not obligations. They choose connection without surrendering freedom. At this stage of life, wisdom isn't about chasing what you lost. It's about protecting what you've gained: your peace, your health, your financial stability, your family bonds, your independence. Marriage once helped you build those things. Now it may threaten them. That doesn't make marriage bad. It just makes it wrong for many men after 60. So if you're standing at that crossroads, feeling pressure from well-meaning friends, from worried family members, from society's fear of solitude, pause. Ask yourself the harder question: am I truly unhappy alone, or am I simply uncomfortable with silence? Because discomfort fades, but regret lingers. You've earned the right to choose peace over expectation. Freedom over obligation, clarity over confusion. If companionship fits into that, welcome it carefully. But if marriage threatens it, walking away isn't failure. It's wisdom. And sometimes, the bravest decision a man can make late in life is not to begin something new, but to protect what finally feels right, becomes sacred. It's no longer something to spend casually, or give away out of guilt, pressure, or fear of being alone. At this point in life, every day matters in a way it never did before. You begin to measure happiness not by excitement but by absence of stress. Not by intensity, but by steadiness. Not by how full the house feels, but by how light your heart feels when you wake up in the morning. Many men reach this stage and finally understand something they couldn't see when they were younger. They spent most of their lives being needed. Needed by employers. Needed by children. Needed by spouses. Needed by everyone. And while that gave life meaning, it also came with weight. After 60, that weight becomes harder to carry. The body slows down. The mind values peace over noise. The soul craves rest, not responsibility. Remarriage often reintroduces a role you thought you had finally outgrown. There is also a subtle loss of identity that can happen. When you marry again, you are no longer just yourself. You become someone's husband again, with all the expectations, labels, and compromises that come with it. Your time is no longer fully your own. Your choices are filtered. Your routines are questioned. Even good intentions can feel suffocating when you've grown used to freedom. Men often don't realize how much they value their independence until it's gone again. Some discover too late that what they were truly seeking wasn't a spouse, but reassurance. Someone to confirm that they still mattered. That they were still desirable. That they hadn't been forgotten by life. Marriage is a heavy solution to a light problem. Validation can come from friendship, community, purpose, and self-respect. It doesn't require legal vows or shared bank accounts. And then there's the quiet reality of change. People change as they age, but they also become more rigid. Habits harden, preferences deepen, tolerance shrinks. Two people in their 60s or 70s are not blank slates. They are full histories. When those histories collide under one roof, friction is inevitable. What once might have been a small disagreement in youth becomes a daily irritation in later life. And daily irritation slowly erodes joy. Many men report that after remarriage they feel strangely trapped. Not abused, not mistreated, just boxed in. They hesitate to leave the house. They second-guess simple pleasures. They feel guilty enjoying solitude. The freedom they once tasted becomes a memory. And because society tells men they should be grateful for companionship, they suffer quietly, convinced the problem is them. But it isn't. It's timing. Certain structures serve us well at one stage of life and work against us at another. Marriage is one of them. After 60, flexibility matters more than formality. Choice matters more than obligation. Peace matters more than tradition. This is why many experts now quietly encourage alternatives that protect autonomy, separate homes, clear financial boundaries, companionship without cohabitation, love without legal entanglement. These arrangements may sound unconventional, but they often produce the happiest outcomes. Because they allow closeness without confinement, intimacy without loss of self, and perhaps the most important truth of all is this: being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Solitude can be rich, it can be chosen, it can be filled with purpose, routine, learning, reflection, and calm. Misery, on the other hand, often comes from forcing ourselves into situations that no longer fit who we've become. After 60, wisdom is no longer about chasing happiness. It's about avoiding suffering. It's about protecting your health, your energy, your finances, your family ties, and your sense of self. If a relationship adds to those things, it belongs in your life. If it threatens them, no matter how romantic it seems, it deserves serious caution. So if you find yourself alone, don't rush to fill the silence. Listen to it. It may be telling you something important. It may be reminding you that peace is not something you find in another person. It's something you protect within yourself. And sometimes, the greatest act of self-respect in the later years of life is choosing to remain free, calm, and whole, rather than together and quietly broken, for the sake of appearances, or out of fear of what others might think. Because one of the final lessons life teaches, if you allow yourself to see it, is that other people don't live with your consequences. You do. They won't wake up inside your body. They won't carry your stress. They won't sit with your regrets in the quiet hours of the night. Their opinions fade quickly, your reality does not. There is a strange peace that comes when a man realizes he no longer has to prove anything. Not his strength, not his worth, not his ability to attract or provide. After 60, the scoreboard that once mattered quietly disappears. What replaces it is something far more valuable: self-honesty. And self-honesty asks uncomfortable questions. Am I seeking connection, or am I running from discomfort? Am I choosing this because it brings me peace, or because I'm afraid to be alone? Many men discover that the fear of being alone was taught, not felt. Society treats solitude like a problem to be solved instead of a state to be understood. But solitude, when chosen, can be deeply nourishing. It gives space to breathe, to think, to remember, to heal. It allows grief to soften instead of being buried under new expectations. It allows you to miss without replacing, to honor what was without forcing what is next. Remarriage often rushes this process. It asks you to move forward before you've fully settled into yourself again. And when you skip that settling, the unrest follows you into the new relationship. The unresolved becomes repeated. The quiet dissatisfaction returns, just wearing a different face. There is also the matter of energy. Youth recovers quickly. Later life does not. Emotional turbulence that once felt manageable now takes a physical toll. Stress shows up in the chest, in the joints, in the sleep, in the blood pressure. Doctors see it. Therapists hear it. Men feel it but rarely say it out loud. Peace isn't just emotional at this age, it's medical. Some men say they remarry because they don't want to die alone. But the truth is, marriage does not guarantee companionship at the end. Illness, resentment, distance, and timing can still leave you alone, even with a ring on your finger. What truly protects you is a network, friends, family, community, purpose. Kindness given and returned. Those things outlast legal arrangements. And when men step back and look honestly at their happiest moments in later life, they often aren't dramatic or romantic. They are simple. Sitting outside in the morning, a quiet drive, a conversation without tension, a laugh that doesn't require effort. These moments thrive in environments free of pressure, free of obligation, free of constant negotiation. This doesn't mean love has no place anymore. It means love must be lighter, kinder, more spacious. It must fit into the life you have, not demand you reshape yourself around it. The right connection after 60 doesn't ask you to give up your freedom. It respects it. It doesn't need to own your time. It appreciates it. It doesn't bind your future. It walks alongside it. So if you're listening to this and feeling conflicted, that's okay. Conflict often appears right before clarity. Slow down. There is no race, no deadline, no rule that says you must choose partnership over peace. You've earned the right to choose what feels honest, not what looks acceptable. At the end of life, very few men regret not remarrying, but many regret ignoring their intuition. Ignoring the quiet voice that said something isn't right. That voice grows wiser, which not weaker. Trust it. Because being alone can be calm. It can be safe. It can be deeply fulfilling. But being in the wrong situation, especially late in life, can quietly cost you everything that matters. And the greatest wisdom a man can carry into his later years is knowing the difference. And once you truly understand that difference, your choices begin to change in a quiet but powerful way. You stop chasing what looks right and start honoring what feels right. You stop explaining yourself to people who won't live your life. You stop bargaining with your peace. There's a calm confidence that comes with that realization, a sense of standing firmly in your own truth for the first time. Many men reach this stage and finally allow themselves to grieve properly. Not just for a spouse they lost, but for the years they spent putting themselves last. For the compromises that were necessary then, but are no longer required now. Grief doesn't mean weakness, it means you cared, and giving yourself time to feel it, without rushing to replace it, is an act of strength. Rushing into remarriage often comes from an unspoken panic, the feeling that time is running out and something must be decided quickly. But wisdom understands that fewer years does not mean fewer choices. In fact, it means each choice deserves more care. Slower decisions, deeper listening, more respect for your inner signals. When something is right at this stage of life, it feels calm, not urgent. There is also a deep satisfaction in learning to enjoy your own company. To become someone you don't need a break from. To sit in silence without reaching for distraction. To recognize that peace is not boring, it's healing. Men who learn this often say they feel younger, not older, lighter, more grounded, more themselves than they've felt in decades. And something unexpected happens when you stop chasing companionship out of fear. Health improves, sleep deepens, anxiety softens, your days take on a natural rhythm. You start doing things simply because you enjoy them, not because someone expects you to. This quiet contentment doesn't make headlines, but it sustains life. If companionship enters at this point, it should feel like an addition, not a rescue. A choice, not a necessity. The healthy slit-life connections are formed when both people are already whole. when neither is trying to fill a void, fix a wound, or escape loneliness. Those relationships don't cling, they don't control, they coexist. And if companionship never arrives in the form society celebrates, that doesn't mean life is incomplete. Meaning can come from mentoring, from creativity, from service, from faith, from curiosity, from presence. Many men discover a deeper purpose after 60 than they ever had before, precisely because they finally have the space to listen to themselves. In the end, life becomes less about adding and more about protecting. Protecting your health, your time, your peace, your relationships with your children and grandchildren, your dignity. Protecting the version yourself that has survived loss, effort, and decades of responsibility. So don't let anyone rush you into a decision that feels heavy. Don't let loneliness scare you into surrendering your freedom. And don't confuse love with obligation. At this stage, love should feel like warmth, not weight. The quiet truth is this: you don't need to be married to be fulfilled. You don't need to share a home to share connection. You don't need legal ties to feel close. What you need is honesty with yourself, courage to choose peace, and the wisdom to know that sometimes, the most meaningful companionship you'll ever have is the calm relationship you build with your own life. And once you accept that truth, something remarkable begins to happen. Life no longer feels like a race, a list of obligations, or a series of societal checkmarks. Instead, it becomes a space for reflection, for quiet joy, for subtle discoveries. The mornings stretch longer, not because you sleep in, but because you savor them. You notice the sunlight on a tree, the rhythm of your own breath, the simple satisfaction of a cup of coffee without interruption or expectation. These are not small things, they are the essence of a life lived fully and intentionally. Men who embrace this stage with clarity often find that their relationships deepen, even without legal ties. Friendships become more meaningful because they are chosen freely. Bonds with children and grandchildren strengthen, because they are unencumbered by conflict or divided loyalties. The heart learns to give and receive love without needing contracts, certificates, or societal approval. And in that space, a new kind of confidence emerges, a quiet authority over your own life that is far more satisfying than any applause from the outside world. You begin to understand that the real wealth of life isn't measured in dollars, property, or even shared experiences, but in autonomy, peace, and the capacity to act without coercion. The world becomes less about proving yourself, and more about enjoying the life you've already built. You realize that every choice to protect your peace is a form of courage, every refusal to compromise your well-being is an act of wisdom, and every day spent living authentically is a gift. There's also a profound liberation in shedding expectations. Society has long told men that being alone is failure, that remarriage is the goal, that companionship is only valid within a marriage license. When you finally reject those imposed rules, something lightens inside. You no longer measure your life by the standards of others. You no longer chase approval or validation. You can sit in quiet, read, write, travel, explore, or simply exist on your own terms, and the relief is exhilarating. And yet there's still room for connection. You can still laugh with someone at a cafe, share a meal with a companion, attend a concert with a friend, or travel with someone who respects your routines. You can have intimacy, conversation, and shared experiences without surrendering your home, your money, or your independence. These connections become richer because they are chosen, not required. They are voluntary, mutual, and unpressured, a model of love that fits your stage in life. Even when challenges arise, you handle them with a clarity that only comes from experience. You recognize stresses before they take root. You see patterns from decades of living and avoid repeating mistakes. You know the difference between urgency and importance, between desire and necessity. And perhaps most importantly, you understand that your time is finite, which gives every decision gravity, precision, and care. The beauty of life after 60 is that you finally have the chance to live intentionally, to craft each day according to your values, needs, and joys, to prioritize your health, your mind, and your relationships in ways that honor yourself and those you love. The mistakes of youth no longer dictate your choices, the wisdom of age guides them. And that, perhaps, is the most profound form of freedom. So, if you are listening and you feel pressure, from family, friends, or society, to remarry, pause. Take a deep breath. Sit with your life as it is, and ask yourself honestly what you truly need, not what you're told you need. Because when you reach this stage, the wrong decision can cost years of peace and happiness. The right decision, even if unconventional, can preserve your joy, your health, your wealth, and your legacy. And ultimately, the most courageous, rewarding, and transformative decision you can make in your later years is to choose yourself first. To honor the life you've built, the wisdom you've earned, and the peace you've fought for. To live fully, freely, and intentionally until the very end, without apology, without compromise, and without surrender. That is not loneliness, that is mastery, that is freedom. That is what it means to truly live after 60.